Hey guys, Dancy2! Here with more Fire Emblem Heroes. Happy Halloween, everybody! And oh my gosh! Look at this! This is the best banner ever! My top two waifus are together! In cute Halloween outfits! Ah! Ah! I may have lost my mind when I first saw this. However, I don't make videos on reactions, so you just get an impromptu one here. I am beyond excited for this. My bank account is going to die, and I don't even care. RIP investments for the future. I need waifus now. I may have already spent money, and it's been less than like 6 hours. But in that time, I also managed to reap some benefits. Yeah! I'm HP up, attack down, and I don't even care. So that's actually kind of unfortunate when you look at her stats, but with her abilities, she actually kind of makes up for it a little bit, so I'm okay. I can live with this. I'd rather have attack down than speed down, because speed functions for offense and defense, but attack down is pretty much there's very few units that work with attack down, and honestly, I feel that the only two that I would argue are maybe Odin, because he just doesn't function at all. People who rely only on their supers, like Felicia or Niles or Henry. Old Henry. We'll talk about new Henry later. Old Henry might as well not even exist now. And specifically, what's her name? Sharina, the Green Axe armored unit. She is basically just a giant wall, so she doesn't really need attack power, but for any kind of unit that has any respectable offense, you never want to drop attack. So getting an attack down is kind of sadness, but I live because it's NOWI, and she's adorable. Let's hear what she has to say. What do you have to say, adorable witch?
Want me to grant a wish? No problem. Whoopity floopity florp. Did it come true? Haha, maybe next time.
The words of a generation, no doubt. Alright, but enough celebration and joy at waifus. Let's talk stats here, because we gotta get to this point eventually. I still don't have a Sakura. It brings me sadness. But I'm not spending any more money until the month rolls over. I don't know why I spent money now, but I'm happy I did, because I got her. Yeah! I got number one, baby. Number one. Number two is still eluding me. And honestly, these two, Jacob can go away, but I like Henry. Henry's also kind of cool. He's a pretty cool character. Jacob, though, just another member of the Corn fan club, in my opinion. I just realized you can't see my mouse. I'm pointing the shit. Just talk with my hands. That includes my virtual hands, whatever. Let's look at stats. I grabbed these off of Game Press. Ignore the rating over all the way on the right. Game Press only really rates stuff based off of 1v1 potential, and therefore 90% of their ratings I don't really agree with. Oddly enough, with the latest patch, with their latest like reset for whenever they do their ratings, I'm not sure how often they do it. They actually dropped NOWI, base NOWI down to 4.5 from a 5 out of 5, and I actually agreed with that until Sigurd entered the game, and then she was able to hard counter him, and since he's basically going to join the meta along with Reinhardt and Lynn, brave Lynn at that, I think she deserves going back up to 5 out of 5 at that point. But I don't agree with 90% of their ratings anyway, so that's kind of irrelevant. So let's just take it from the top and work our way down. Henry. Holy crap, this kid got an upgrade. Base Henry is terrible. He is basically just a carrier of Raven Tomes and Green Toe Breaker. That's what he has. Oddly enough, he now possesses a Green Tome. And it's great. Both him and Jakob have the same effect on their weapon. And they're both armored units, I should also add. Which is kind of interesting, considering they're our first armored ranged units, and our first armored mage, and archer, respectively. But both of them have the same effect on their weapon, which is basically panic smoke. So, very similar to what Veronica has on her tome, if I remember correctly. I can't remember if she just directly panics her target or if she has the AoE as well. But they have the Panic Smoke AoE, so it hits everything around them. Not only that, but they are plus weapons, which means they can be transferred. If Blade Tomes were at all a meta before, they are dead now. Like, this is the thing that... I never considered Blade Tomes to be the meta, even back when they were in early June, before, you know, Reinhardt kind of started dominating. And the reason for that is because it doesn't really work on defense. The AI isn't smart enough to really abuse it. But ever since Lynn, Deirdre, or whatever the hell her name is, that came with Sigurd, his girl, ever since those two came into play, I really would say that Blade Tomes were all but dead as far as being a meta threat. Because they were just so easily countered, especially by things in the meta itself. But these two just blew it out of the water. It's over now. All of your bonuses becoming, all of your buffs becoming debuffs just killed that as far as a potential goes. So, yeah. Honestly, I feel like they might have... Like, this was all that was really necessary to stop Blade Tomes. Doing what they did with Deirdre and Brave Lynn, in my opinion, was overkill. And especially with how powerful Brave Lynn is, it did not turn out well, in my opinion. The fact that you can... That the meta is basically solidified in one team at this point, with one unit that is, you know, sort of exchangeable, although Dancer is typically what you go with. That just kind of proves it to me that, like... The real problem here is Sigurd, alright? He's not an overpowered unit, but he just meshes so well with the rest of the meta, it's unbelievable. Well, we're not here to bitch about that. We're here to talk about lean characters. Henry! So yeah, he has the Spectral Tome. All bonuses become penalties within 2 spaces through the foe's next action. He has Reprisal, which I'm not really that big... I don't think that's really all that good for him. Yes, a 2-turn charge is pretty awesome, but at 36 HP, he's really not going to get the most out of that. So I would definitely advise swapping that out for something else. Iceberg is definitely viable for him. At 33 attack, I wouldn't go Dragon Fang. Dragon Fang is definitely okay, but you're going to get the same effect out of Iceberg, essentially, with the high res he has. And speaking of his stats, and his final ability, well, let's finish off abilities first, and then we'll talk stats. He has Live for Honor, which is completely useless if you're like me and you literally are drowning in badges even after the whole Sacred Forge update, which was really good for giving us a use for those badges. I've just been playing since the beginning, so I literally have more than there are grains of sand on the beach at this point. I wouldn't say literally, but pretty much. And, of course, his last ability is Armor March. Yes, we have another source of Armor March aside from Amelia, which is really, really good, because, ironically enough, he actually, looking at his stats, he's very close to Amelia, just trading out defense for resistance and an axe for a tome. He basically has almost identical stats. Obviously, his HP is much lower because she has trainee stats, but... And his attack, I believe, is 1 point lower, his speed is identical, and his defense is actually a bit higher than her resistance. But it's still very, very similar, and she has a very good stat spread, he does as well. As I said, his HP is a little bit low, especially for an armored unit. So, his built-in reprisal wouldn't necessarily go with that, would try something else. As for boons and banes, as with Amelia, a speed boon is absolutely amazing for him. Going for any point that you can get above 30, and especially any point that you can get above 35, is massive for you. So, would definitely try to go for that if possible. Obviously, after that, attack is not terrible. Res wouldn't be bad either for him. And I would definitely look towards dropping his HP or his defense. Just plain and simple, very easy, very obvious to build. And as far as A skills, as far as B skills go, I'd really go Vantage or Desperation as always. Desperation is definitely viable because of his speed, and he just wants to be able to double things. And with the ideal setup, I think, for him is actually to try and run a Green Blade Tome, maybe? if you want to go a little bit crazy, run that, have him sit in the middle of a T formation with armor march, and have everyone around him with armor buffs. I could see him wrecking complete house with that, so definitely interesting. However, as far as his A slot goes, him and Jakob both had this very interesting thing where, for the first time since Takumi, we really have options as far as giving someone else close range counter. And this isn't something I even thought of initially, but I was watching Sage's video and he brought it up and I'm like, no, that's totally right. Because aside from a couple niche builds, no one has really been able to use close range counter outside of Takumi. I know Leon also has potential to use it, but for the most part, most archers and mages and such don't really use it all that much. Because they want just the raw stat boost. But these guys are armored units, they already have high stats, so giving them close range counter is extremely viable. And on that note, let's move on to Jakob. So yeah, same weapon as Henry, bonuses become penalties to all foes within 2 spaces of the next foe's action, yada yada yada. It's panic smoke, essentially. So, once again, and it's also a plus weapon, just like Henry's, so be on the lookout. These things can easily change hands. I would not be surprised to see a couple Brave Lins or Brydalias running these monstrous bows in the future. And as far as Henry's Green Tome, obviously, Nino and all of her ilk. Actually, I think it might be even a better weapon for Shorin. Shorin, in my opinion, is the one who I would say is definitely your tome dump. Just because he has the basic tome, so he can just go in any direction he wants. But back to Jakob. He has Ingus, Glowing Ember, so yeah, putting that high defense to use. He has high defense and resist, and the reason for this is because of his A skill, Bracing Blow, which is defense and resist +4 when you initiate combat. So it's another combo offense, which is, this one I'd probably say is definitely the least useful. Just in general, warding is not all that fantastic, even on archers. But at the same time, I feel like if he didn't make such a good use out of close range counter, I wouldn't be saying this. But these two, yeah, no, theory crafting here, close range counter is going to be their domineering A slot. As far as other people who could use this ability, actually, I brought it up earlier. Sheena or Serena or whatever the heck her name is, the Green Axe armored unit that was at base launch. She could probably take a pretty good use out of this, considering she is also an armored unit that has high attack or high defense and res. So I could definitely see her making use out of this, but outside of that, not a ton of people. And once again, she doesn't need long range counter because she doesn't have offense. She's just a wall. So, you know. But on top of that, Jakob also has access to Wary Fighter, shoring up that garbage speed stat of his. So, definitely, in a way, he's kind of a weird ranged Effie. He's got an offensive blow and Wary Fighter. Yeah, it's a little bit viable of a comparison. He's a very standard armored unit that just happens to have a bow as well, I feel, is the long and short of him. 35 attack is definitely something to go for, and I would definitely watch out for this guy. I'm still not positive whether strapping a Braid Bow to him would be possible, because he has no chances of quadding at all. With that speed stat of his, even discounting Wary Fighter with that speed stat, he's not going to quad anything, so I really do think that he's just going to stick with Monstrous Bow and roll with it. His HP is also a little bit low for an armored unit, but we have seen armored units with low HP before. If I remember correctly, Amelia has around that HP as well. Excuse me, I'm going to move our audio a bit because I have to check hers. She's at 47. She's a good 5 points higher. But, it's not terribly low, but at the same time, low mid 40s, so like 40 to 45 is kind of a weird territory to be in. You're not super tanky, but at the same time, you're not tin foil paper either. So it's really how you use your HP when you're in that area. So, heck, well, if Brave Ike can make it work, I'm sure he can, especially since he has Wary Fighter. But enough of our armored friends. Let's move on to the main the main appeal of this banner, at least for me, the two best girls in the entire Fire Emblem universe, if you ask me at least. Starting with NOWI. Oh boy, NOWI. Well, first off, let's just say right here, right now, their BST is going to be a lot lower just because they are both dagger and flying. And for whatever reason, flying takes a hit to its BST. It has enough problems with arrows. I'm not sure why it also has to take a hit to base stats. It eludes me. Actually, they might not take a hit to base stats now that I think about it. I think do only dancers get lower base stats? I don't remember. But the point is, it's significantly lower than our armored friends. Now, that being said, NOWI is by no means bad for that reason. Let's start with her weapon. She is the only one with a legendary weapon in this crew, which is definitely a plus. And hers is Grimoire. It has an ability that we haven't seen yet. Much like the witches in... or at least, from what I've heard, much like the witches in... what is it? Echoes. It allows her to teleport. If you have greater than 50% HP, you can just warp to a space adjacent to anyone who is within 2 spaces of you. So basically, if you could reach them for your normal action, you can teleport to any side of them. Which, comboing that with Guidance, which applies the same ability but in reverse, so that Sacred Seal that's available right now, I would advise trying to get. But yeah, comboing it with that basically gives you some of the most insane flanking ability in the game. You can just teleport people around like a madwoman. So yeah, to the point where I don't even know why she comes with reposition. She doesn't need it. She has, like, just give her the Guidance Seal and she's good to go. Not only that, but her A slot, which I believe is exclusive. I don't remember ever seeing this before. But her A slot is actually very synergistic with this. It gives an attack and resistance boost up to +5 at max level if you are adjacent to another ally. Obviously, this has some synergy with Altomes, but I feel that with her Grimoire, which is her legendary weapon, of course, that by itself also has amazing synergy to it. She has Live for Bounty, which is the good live for skill, so we get 1.5 times shards and crystals from Trading Tower, which is pretty nice. Just pray that you get shards and not crystals, because if you're like me, you're drowning in crystals. Because you realize that any kind of EXP boost is basically a trap for you never to get SP, and that's just not fun. And she comes with Hone Flyers! So anyone who busted their ass getting Honoka in that last banner, sorry, there's a much more adorable Hone Flyers over here, and she has a broom. You may make as many pole dance jokes as you wish, I will simply ignore them. But nonetheless, this also allows her, for a very easy skill inheritance, one that I chose to do, which is just Hone Attack 3 and Dragon Gaze and Dragon, what is it? I think it's not Dragon Fang, it's, it's Draconic Aura and Dragon Gaze, that's what it is. Yeah, and I just pulled those 3 off of a female Corrin, and you're good to go. And that's obviously if you don't want to run her in a Flyers team. I actually would advise not running her in a Flyers team, because with, Guidance and her Grimoire ability, she actually makes an amazing support unit for just a standard team. I'm actually using her currently on my standard team, which is regular NOWI, Brave Ike, and currently regular Sakura, but I could easily swap that out for just a bow unit of some kind. Probably Takumi. But yeah, overall, NOWI is amazing, but I would definitely say look out for arrows for obvious reasons. I would not try getting rid of attack and res bond unless you have a plan. I was thinking Iota Shield for her, but as soon as I saw how synergistic that was, I kind of gave up on that. I was like, it's a good idea in theory, but she just doesn't have... She's lacking a couple base stats to really be tanky, so she's just going to go down if she takes hits at all, so she just kind of wants to duck in and out of there, which makes my attack down just kind of depressing at this point. And on to our last unit, we have Sakura. She is an adorable kitty, and her ear twitches in game. It's so cute. Ah! Okay, enough of that. We can squeal later. We gotta talk stats now. Basically, from our stats perspective, and for NOWI, as far as stats perspective goes, she's a standard mage. High attack, high speed. 32 speed is really good. 34 attack is a tiny bit low, but at the same time, really 1 or 2 more points and you're right at average. You're fine. And you do have a legendary tome to shore that up with, obviously. And, obviously, hone abilities if you go Blade Tome. I still don't have a Thoria, for some god unknown reason. God help me. But, nonetheless, back to Sakura. Sakura is a weird amalgamation of... what is it? Kagero and Felicia, taking the best aspects of both and leaving the trash, in my opinion. So her weapon is Kitty Paddle, effective against foe using magic. This includes any foe using magic, so it's Poison Dagger, but for mages. Also, if it uses magic, it gets defense resist -7. That's not really important because you're probably going to nuke it with just 1 shot because of her actually good attack and speed stats. So yeah, couple that with a high resist, and you become the biggest threat to Reinhardt on the face of the planet. Although I'm pretty sure Reinhardt still kills you because Reinhardt is overpowered. Brash Assault combo, hooray. As far as specials go, she has Glacius. I would actually advise toning this down to a Iceberg, just because I always feel that Glacius is a bit overkill. And passive skills, we have Warding Stance, our first Warding Stance user. Gets resistance +6 at max when this unit is attacked. I honestly feel like this is a bit overkill. If you want to go something else of any kind, I think Fury is probably a good idea in this case. Just because she benefits from attack speed and resistance going up. Otherwise, Darting Blow is obviously very effective. Swift Sparrow, Savage Blow, anything of that ilk, any kind of offensive tool she's going to make a major use out of. She is kind of designed to be a counter unit, but I think she could do that perfectly fine with her 34 res. As long as you don't dump it. Res as a stat, you'll be sitting pretty. And for her, she also has Dagger Valor, more SP, hooray, that's always nice. But for her B-Slut, for some reason they decided to give her Guard. Now here's the thing, I actually like Guard as a skill, because I think it might be bugged in this game, where unless you actually start losing HP from your bar, it doesn't stop working. This was noticeable. I might just be crazy, but I thought I noticed this with the Black Knight Tempest trial, but once again, I might be crazy about this. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Because then Arden can have all kinds of fun with it. But he really doesn't want to lose his ring. Yeah. But yeah, she has Guard. I assume this is just to stop Reinhardt from moonbowing her, but he's just going to kill her with 4 hits anyway. So I would advise trading this out for Desperation. I really would. When you have this high speed, it's definitely useful, and especially if you're going with an offensive attacking thing. If you are using her in her base set works very well as a mage counter, but I would go on the offense with her, I really would. She just has that, she has the ability to take the initiative, I would take it. So yeah, this is one of those banners where everyone is really good. There isn't anyone who is particularly weak, despite what these guys would say over here. Quite obviously, they are only looking at this from a meta perspective. But looking at it from anywhere but Arena, these guys are all really, really powerful, and I'm glad I got one as early as I did. I'm hoping to get a few more. I might end up even spending some more money. Because, you know, best girls are here and accounted for. So, you know, kind of excited, just a tiny bit. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.